I know we've said this before, but the music is what feeds us when we're up here doing the speaking. Yes? Yeah, we get fed by your messages and, of course, the choices that you make for us, and so we're grateful. So how are you loving this book? Yes? Is it changing your life and causing some conflict, maybe? You know, that's our job as ministers, is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And so we choose books that will help us do that, right, and get us on purpose of who we've come here to be and what is ours to do. So I want to start with the story of this young girl who, she wasn't really a bad kid, but she happened to be the daughter of a king and queen, and so she was a little spoiled. And she had a boo-boo on her eye and wouldn't really let anybody tend to it, and really just kept whining and rubbing, right? When something's bugging us, we just keep at it, don't we? Let me clarify that. When something's bugging me, I keep at it. And so I can imagine that I might have really just rubbed my eye, you know, to a place where it just hurt even more and more. So finally, the king said, let's just take her to the doctor. And, of course, at that time, there were no doctors, right? Like offices, per se, in fairy tale land. And so the word went out to the kingdom that if the healer could come and heal the daughter, they would receive a great prize of sorts. They didn't tell the details on the prize in the storybook that I read. So a man comes forward. He doesn't say he's a doctor, but he says he for sure knows that he can heal the king's daughter. So you can imagine that she's sitting there as the princess that she was, and in walks this doctor, per se, that she doesn't know. And she's got her hands out like, no, I don't want you to look at me, no, no, no. And finally her mom said, oh, you know, sweetie, come on, let's have him look at the eye. So he looks at the eye, and he says, well, I have some really good news. Your eye is going to be fine. Well, she got a little bit of an attitude. Like, he must not know. He said, however, there's something else that's really wrong, but I can't tell you. I just can't tell you. And she's pouting, and you got to tell me, you got to tell me, you got to tell me. And finally the king was called in, and he demanded that this healer tell what was wrong with the daughter. And what he said is, the eye will get better within a few days. No problem. However, the princess is growing a tail. And it's probably going to be at least 9 inches long. It may start growing very soon, he said. So what I need you to do is to pay attention to when it starts. And if I can get it right as it starts, we probably can stop it from growing the 9 inches. So the news went out to the kingdom, as it does, yes? Right. Even before they had email. And the princess was so concerned about her tail. She stayed in bed. She was just kept looking, you know, making sure nothing was growing. And the eye healed. The end. It's true, right? We focus on something and it becomes so big. She never thought about her eye again because she was so worried about the tail. Smart man, wasn't he? And I can't imagine how he reveled in getting this great prize that he was to get. So we've been studying this book, and last week your focus was to be on manifesting, correct? It was called the Volkswagen Jetta principle. The number of whatever you chose, and then another number of something that you chose to observe, and it was a 48-hour experiment. So who participated in that? Who did that they would like to share some of your information? Great. My assistant will give you the microphone for today.
Well, I thought Sunday of the most ridiculous thing I could think of, and it was a pink rubber band, a bubble gum pink rubber band. Not a blue one, not a red one, not a yellow, just bubble gum pink. And I looked and I looked everywhere I went. I looked and I didn't find it, didn't find it, didn't find it. So I thought, okay, that's not going to work. And I let it go. Well, Thursday I was preparing dinner. I pulled out a package of broccoli from the refrigerator and took the plastic off. And guess what was holding the stalks together? A bubblegum pink rubber band. And I laughed my head off.
Thank you, Dixie. Does anyone else have a something they focused on and saw? Suzanne, you want to tell about yours?
I asked for a candy apple. I don't know where it came from, but so I don't remember the time frame, but it was the last few hours, and I was watching TV with Kayla, and on one show there was a pencil sharpener that was red and shiny. I'm like, oh my God, that's a candy apple. The kid was putting the pencil in. And then the next show was, what was it? Something with princesses and that kind of fairy tale stuff. And out comes the bright, shiny red apple for the princess to bite in. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? Ron.
Can you stand, Ron, please?
It's interesting is I'm thinking about where I'm at life and what I do with my energy. And I sent a famous person a picture when my son rises, and he goes, when are you going to start your book with this? And so our conversations together with it, I've started it.
So we talked about what Reverend Rose spoke about was resetting our mind to see what we know we can see. In the situations where maybe you're not really seeing what you want to see, can you still see it? So my experiment was I got to speak in Key West last week. Someone's got to do it. And so I gifted myself on the way down to stop and see friends, and of course sleep over, and go to as many beaches as I can possibly go to continue on my journey of finding hearts and all sorts of things. And so I did. And I didn't find anything. And I was disappointed by the beaches that are like the top rated. We have great ones right here in Brevard County. So after I spoke on Sunday, I know I'm going to still have to be here this Sunday, so I've got to manifest this. So I took a little bit more time than just 24 or 48 hours, but I went up the East Coast then on the way to a minister's meeting that we got to go to on Tuesday. And so I went to Captiva Island, and they only have like one public beach. And I pull in, it's like 199 degrees, at least it felt like that. And so there's one parking space. I'm like, of course, it's for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I get up and I'm walking. I'm not finding anything. There's no seashells anywhere. And so what I found instead was this heart. Because I said, I need a manifestation, pretty please, thank you very much, of a heart. I didn't say it had to be a seashell. I didn't say it had to be a piece of wood. I didn't say it had to be one of the bubbles that runs off. I just would like some manifestation of a heart. And so I'm hoarding hearts now. I have been for a long, long time. But, I figured if I'm... Yeah, you do too. So it just happens. And so, to be part of it is to change your mind, to know you're going to find and not to attach yourself to necessarily what the outcome is about. That's what the reset is about. Okay, this or something better. Yes, always. So whenever you're asking for something, if you add that on or you do a vision board, this or something better. This or something better. Because how do we know? Who would have thought I would walk away with something this big? Now, where am I going to put it? I think it'll be a nice doorstop, for my bedroom door, or something like that. It doesn't matter. Until it's time to give it away, it's mine. It does. So you're resetting your mind, but the week before, the very first one was all about changing your thinking. Garbage in, garbage out. I remember my mom saying that. I'm sure she wishes that I would remember something different than that, but I do remember that, garbage in, garbage out. Teachers told us that, yes, when we were little. And so what we know is that it's not only what I put in and what I think, but what all of us do, because we're one. We are one. And so when it's happening over in China or it's happening, the earthquake that happened, I sat with it and thought, so where in my world here in Brevard County or wherever I was, whichever county I was in, where am I having an earthquake? And so it's not about getting down about it. It's just about being aware that messages are coming through all the time for us to be present in this moment, because it's all that we have. If you want to have guilt and shame, visit your past. And if you want to live in terror and fear and, I don't know, go ahead and start thinking about the future, right? Because we can control nothing. We can't change what happened. We certainly don't know what's even going to be for lunch yet. So why don't we just be present to what's happening right now in this moment? Freedom was the word. And Leslie was talking about me, being with Mary Mann Morrissey, and she is a Unity ordained minister as well. And so if you want your life to change, only if you want your life to change and to be really great, then come. Come and see what this is about, being in charge of yourself, because prosperity is much more than money. We know that, right? Because, hello, who has the mother load of heart rocks? I do. So the challenge, now you all can see if you have. You go ahead and show me your heart rocks, and we'll have a little, it doesn't even have to be a contest. It can be exciting, right? And people are like, oh, look at what I found that had a heart in it. And so it's contagious. Our attitude is contagious. And that's what this week's chapter was about. It is about that we are a field of energy too. And so we think about, wait, what? Aren't I this? Isn't this who I am? No. It's what's carrying around my soul during this journey, this reincarnation, this lifetime that I'm having. But the truth of who I am, you can't always see, because my personality gets in the way. And sometimes it gets in the way a lot. And then I have to remember, reset my mind, remind myself that I'm being less than who I really can be. I'm getting persuaded by the news. So I go to the sunset this morning. I am like, woo, on fire. I'm videoing it. I'm sending it out to everybody. And it's so exciting to think, oh my gosh, look at these colors. We're talking 64 bucks of Crayolas to create these sunrises that I've been seeing. But I also go sometimes and it's uneventful. So each time that it's great, I can feel my energy grow, grow, grow. Every time I come in to be with you all, because I love the people that have the consciousness that Unity is expressing as you. And then my energy rises. And then you turn on the news, and your energy goes, oh, right? So then you have to say, so what, sometimes we don't watch the news at all, really, but I do tend to scan it online just so I'm current, and know what's happening out there. And then again ask, so what in this does God want me to know? That I'm supposed to be somehow shifting in my own consciousness about thinking. How do you control your energy? I have to, because it is so big. And it's offensive, I've been told. And so it's, I have to be cognitive of that in my excitability, that maybe someone else isn't going to be as excitable as I am about that. And so that's just our job. How I made it through ministerial school, swear to God, was that I told the people that I had to tell, which is your licensing and ordination team, that I was going to temper my zeal with wisdom. And they thought, well, at least she knows the process. Now we'll see if she does that, right? Because it's just who I am. No caffeine, I don't know, it's just, I wake up, I'm just excited about everything that goes on. And so it doesn't mean I don't have my moments that are less than. We all do. And be honest and be real when those hit. But in general, I'm excitable about things that are awesome, which is pretty much everything. I saw little Miss Rosie was in the back, and she was drawing, and I said, oh, well, what are you drawing? And she was looking at her calendar and making a point. I said, are you busy? Is your calendar full? Yes. She just started school. So, she was just, her smile's like this big. How is it not contagious? And so it reminds us to be childlike, not childish, childlike, so that we can see the wonder and be aware of the energy that we give off. Energy is a big part of what Unity talks about, and so this book is so great on that. There's a word called noosphere. Anybody familiar with that word? Noosphere? And so it was created, and I'm looking this up on this just to give you the exact details, by a Jesuit priest who was ousted from the church. His name was Pierre Teilhard Desjardins. And he really, now science contributes the internet to his process of understanding that we are all of one mind. It was not Al Gore, by the way. And this is back in 1922. That's when the Fillmores were, alive and well. So they were colleagues, so to speak. A lot of the work that Fillmore, when you get into where he, understood, and especially this thought of one mind, one consciousness. Look, we had a little bit of a Catholic influence, which of course resonates with me. I went to a Jesuit school and, was a little Catholic girl early on. But what his ideas were so big that the Catholic Church was afraid. How dare you have your own mind? Hello, I'm the priest. I'm going to tell you what to think, and you'll only go through me to talk to God. That's what I learned. Now they've changed it. It's much different today. Thank you. Thank you, God. And the Pope is out doing things that, is so wonderful. But this whole concept of thought, change your thought, change your life. Question every single thought. And when someone's talking to you, you can be thinking, oh, they're being influenced by their thoughts, especially when it's something that's less than nice. Hopefully that hasn't happened to you yet today. But it might. And so then you say, oh, I'm being influenced by my thoughts because I'm thinking, look at what that person's doing over there. Or why is this person in the 10 checkout lane and they've got 20 items? Do they know they don't know how to count? They might not. Maybe they just need to get out soon. So I'm being influenced by my thoughts, and I can either let it ruin my day, or I can just say, well, she probably doesn't know how to count. And don't attach an emotion to it, because it's the emotion that is the guide for us. And that's what this chapter is about with our energy. If you're finding yourself in a 5 o'clock news state, you're going to need to have a shift. And if you have the great fun thought when you're watching a sunrise or a sunset, then you know where you're at as well. So we get to always choose, don't we? That's the greatest thing about Unity. Nobody tells you how to be. And yet there's many ways to figure out for ourselves how it's going to work for us and as us. What you focus on increases. That's not just a Unity principle. That's a universal law, the law of attraction. If you're thinking, then is going to come, right? And aren't we grateful that not every prayer or every statement is answered in the way that we said it, right? I mean, I thought, I'm glad that didn't happen to that person after I them, right? And I heard a quote, I don't know who it's by, but it's worry is a waste of great imagination. I thought, what? Worries? But think about it. Imagination is everything. So worry is one aspect of it that's not a real good use of it. If we worry about, I wonder if it's going to rain later. Well, who knows? And don't listen to the weathermen because they don't know either, right? And I wonder what's going to happen tomorrow. Who knows? Because we don't know what's going to happen this afternoon, correct? So how are you taking your energy, being responsible for it? We're not our body. We're a soul in this body. And 99%, she writes in here, you don't know about me by just observing me. When I read that, I thought, wow. Not that I didn't know it, but really to hear it and see it in writing. So I'm judging everybody all the time. And I'm a minister. So I could go to the guilt and shame part, like, well, that's not right. No, 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 no. But one of the other things that we also are learning is get rid of the boxes. The good, the bad, the right, the wrong. And always do your best. And someone will remind you if you're not. Right? And I want people in my life to help me with that. Like, it seems like you're like really stuck on that, Therese. Or, wow, good response in that way. Because then we've got the flow going. And that's what energy is about, the flow. So how are you reminding yourself that I'm energy and everything around me is energy? Have you ever walked into a group of people and just thought, oh, no, I've made a mistake by coming here? Now, it could be some of the things we make up in our mind. And even if we don't know we read energy, we do. We do. And we're made up of all of those particles, the grand scheme of who we are. And look at how beautiful we all are. Take a look around. Look at how beautiful energy has created as each of us. Look at somebody and say, your energy is beautiful. Come on, use your playground voices. Because if you're talking like this, who's going to hear you? Right? It's true. And sometimes I know there's doubting Thomases, yes, but we know this because scientists believe it, people who are professional meditators believe it, philosophers, here's a few names. Plato, Newton, Carnegie, some pretty well-known names. Beethoven, Shakespeare, Einstein, pretty big names, yes? So if they all knew this, you know who really knew it? Think about it. Benjamin Franklin. And he kept, and Thomas Edison as well. But you know, there's something bigger, there's something bigger, there's something bigger. So we have electricity. Now, did he make it up, Benjamin Franklin? No. He just had the imagination that he didn't worry with and created this application for us now to plug in. So when you're feeling from source, plug in. Say a prayer, call somebody in your congregation, call silent unity, but get plugged back into the source of that. Just like Jesus didn't create the concept of miracles. He knew that he was a soul. And that's what we focus in on unity. People will ask me that all the time. I got to have time with my family in Chicago, and my brother-in-law said, is that a cult you go to? I said, well, some people have called it that. What I didn't say, because I'm doing my Byron Katie work, was, and when was the last time you went to church? But I didn't say that. Because they can quote all sorts of things, but are they practicing it, right? So I said, no, well, some people see that because what we look at is how Jesus lived his life. Well, what does that mean? I said, well, remember when we were in, because he's just about my age and I've known him since we were kids, married to one of my sisters. I said, remember we only learned ever about how Jesus died and we're sinners and all of that. He's like, well, yeah, because we are. So, of course, I didn't want to laugh because that would be rude. And so I said, well, I see it differently, and so we focus on how Jesus lived his life. And he said, oh. I said, how did he do the miracles? How did he get feed the 5,000? He's like, well, that's because he was a prophet. I said, right, and I believe that you are one too. And he looked at me and took another drink. And I said, I'm serious, Steve. I'm serious. I do believe that about you, So we got to have those conversations. So if you keep thinking it's outside of you, then you're going to keep searching. And what's the one word that Reverend Rose always uses to explain what we are? Begins with a C. O. N. Consciousness. What are you? We're consciousness. So if I am on the right track with my consciousness for the day, and then I show up okay. And if my consciousness needs a shift, then I may show up less than. And I can only be responsible for myself. And then I can help if you ask, like, how do I shift my consciousness this way or that way? So we get to choose our words, right? That's what you're talking about today, the word. Words influence our thoughts. And the suggestion that I am willing to share with you is to question every single thought. Is it true? Or did you just make that stuff up? Because we do that. And we embellish and get out the Crayolas and, sparkles and all those things. And pretty soon it's a really big craft project based on something that wasn't even true to begin with, right? So question. Keep questioning. Not in a bad way, in the way that is, okay, let me just see, is this true? And then how do I want to respond to it? Because it's the reacting that gets us into trouble, isn't it? Let me rephrase that. When I react, I get into trouble because I haven't breathed first. So if I breathe, then I'm going to respond. Or I may choose not to respond, which, of course, you can imagine would drive my family crazy. So I'd be like, oh, yes, all right. Because they're expecting me to be the way I was. Because I knew everything back then. There's a great biblical scripture that everybody knows. The truth will set you free, right? Everybody knows that one, pretty much. But that's not the scripture. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Somehow that whole part about knowing has kind of gotten by the wayside. The truth's going to set you free. The truth's going to set you free. I'm so spiritual that I'm going to tell you the truth and it's going to set you free, right? No, don't believe anything that I say. Find out, does it work for you? But it's the knowing part that then helps us to move our feet forward because we pay attention. So check in with your feelings. Where are they and what are you responding or reacting to? And how and where are you placing your attention? So we've reset our mind, and this week we get to focus and see where it is that our energy is going. And have you allowed someone to take it from you? I only did that once with my sisters in a time frame of 8 hours. Big kudos for Therese, that I only, took the bait once, so to speak, right? So I'd like for us to demonstrate this to you all. Are you willing? All right, so I'd like to call up forward Pete and Dixie. Kayla, please, and Judy. And Reverend Rose is going to walk you through this experiment. None of this has been pre-tested, and it is amazing. Okay, good, because we're not going to get struck by lightning. But so we need, would you come over here, Dixie, so we have 2 and 2? All right.
Am I on? Yeah. If Kayla would come in the middle because she has done it before. We had to experiment on someone. Okay. So you're going to hold it by the handle, and you're going to hold it quite a ways out from you, about chest high, apart. Bring yours more apart, Dixie. Okay. Now look straight ahead. And what's going to happen is your energy is probably going to be all over the place for a while. Just look straight ahead.
Straight your arms, yeah.
And so they're going to move around a lot. And we're going to wait for them all to kind of settle down a little bit. But you notice how when they first picked them up, they started to move around? Okay. So now I want each of you to think of something very unpleasant in your past. Just look straight ahead and watch what they do. Think of something very unpleasant in your past and notice what they do. And each one's going to be different because each person's energy is different. Okay, now bring it back to focus again. Just look straight ahead and clear that thought out. Okay, let's let them get settled down again. Just focus straight ahead. Straight ahead. Okay. Now you're going to think of something that just fills you with love, that just makes you really happy. Look straight ahead. Something that makes you really happy, really full of love. Watch what they do. Look at Dixie's go. There goes Kayla's. Okay. Yep, Pete's getting there. Yeah, Judy's moving. You see how it's different for each person? Dixie's having a party over there. Okay, now let's get rid of that. Focus again. Look straight ahead. Let them settle down. So you're going to get to try this week. All you do is you get 2 coat hangers. I'm just waiting for them to settle down, so I'm talking. Okay, folks, now you're going to focus on something to your right. Focus on something to your right.
You can move your eyes.
Are you seeing what they're doing? Yeah. You can tell Kayla's been practicing. She's got it down. She lost her homework. She tried to find her homework doing this. Okay, bring your attention back to the center. Back to the center. And then focus on something to your left. You can do it looking straight ahead because it's the energy that's going to move them. Okay, let's give them a hand. Yay.
Thank you.
Good job.
So it's a coat hanger that's cut and a straw so that you're not actually touching the metal itself.
And if anybody wants to take a set home to play with it, you can take a set home.
We know what you're going to be doing.
Be careful with the ends of them, okay?
And bring them back next week if you don't mind, and we'll keep, and if you make your own and you want to bring them back,
Okay.
that would be great too.
Okay.
And so,
Okay, so let me just tell them
Yes.
because more people want them. Let me see yours to tell you exactly what to do. Just give me one. Take your coat hanger and undo the top of it, and then just cut the curly pot off. And this straight piece was what, John, 12 inches long? 12 inches, and the little one was 6, right? 5. Okay, so 12 and 5, and then you cut a straw. You want it to be loose on each end, and you turn the tip up so that it
the straw stays on.
yeah, so you can look at the ones these guys are playing with and create your own for next week.
And if you play with them afterwards and want to hand them off to somebody, that's great. So you see, we had 4 people. Really the only one who had done it before was Kayla. And everybody had a different reaction, didn't they? That's because in our oneness, we are still unique. And we're going to have our own thoughts based on our lives to date. And every thought can be undone and changed, and don't hurt yourself with those. And so what we know is that it can be undone when, in fact, we unpack it more and more. So that's going to keep happening as we go through the rest of the book. And then definitely in September when we talk about the untethered soul. And we want ourselves to be untethered to any one thing, any one thought, any one I'm this. And so what we know is when we think we're identified with one thing, that a minister is only somebody who has church on Sunday morning, then we can I have been kind of thinking, well, am I really a minister then if I don't have my own church, even though I chose not to have a church? And so Reverend Rose has been, we work on this when I get into one of those moments of, am I really this? Well, first of all, I'm not a title, right? I am, if you were to look at me or look at my resume, highly qualified, overqualified in some areas. I'm a daughter, a stepdaughter, an aunt, a fairy godmother, a godmother. We could name a widow, an ex-wife, all of these things. But if we go by what our titles are, they limit us, don't they? or they put us in boxes. And if I lived in boxes, oh my gosh, you know, how horrible that would be for me. And so let go of the titles and then be who you've come here to be, to do what is yours to do. And that's what this whole process and these experiments, they kind of, you know, Pete said, are you going to, what are you doing to me when I come up there at the end? You know, and I said, Reverend Rose is doing it, and it'll be okay. And then he came up again, what am I doing? So, because we're uncomfortable, we don't know, right? And so what we know that here, safe place for talking, for disclosing, for requesting. And that's what's called Unity of Merritt Island. And that's what you all are. That's what your energy says. And for that, I am grateful to be invited to speak. Thank you.